Hello, sports fans and football fans. It's me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, and today I am here to give you my Week 14 picks coming off of Week 13, where I was a not very stellar 9-7. Although the way the week started out, it could have been a lot worse. But, 9-7. But another big thing happened this week, and we'll get to that. But anyway, the first games of the week were on Thanksgiving, and there was 3 games. And those 3 games were the Lions and the Packers, the Chiefs and the Cowboys, and the Bengals and the Ravens. And I only got one of those games right, and surprisingly, it was the Bengals over the Ravens. So, again, we go back to this whole theme of no real elite teams in the NFL, and except maybe the Rams, although the Rams did stumble last week big time. But we'll get to that, too. So, anyway, I was 1-2 on Thanksgiving. And then there was the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. And it was a Black Friday for one of the 2 teams that played that day, the Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles. And it was a Black Friday for the Eagles. Yes, slam dunk. Bears. The Bears soundly defeated the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the score doesn't really indicate how badly the Eagles were trounced. It was only a 9-point difference, but the Bears were all over them. They controlled the entire game. They were running at will almost. Should have scored more. The Bears should have had like 40 points, but they didn't. They only won that game. What was the score of that game? They only won that game 24-15. But, like I said, they dominated the Eagles. Now, I did have 2 comments last week. One guy said, no way are the Eagles losing to the Bears. And another guy said, yeah, I hate to break it to you. The Bears are not only going to lose, but they're going to get embarrassed. Well, one of those teams was embarrassed, and it was the Eagles. So why? Why do people not listen to me? For weeks now. 3, 4, 5 weeks, maybe? All right, maybe not 5 weeks, maybe 4, maybe 3. I've been saying that the Eagles are not that good. And they're not. They have a good defense. They have a really good defense. And their offense is crap. It's a pile of doo-doo. And, that's what happened to them. They just couldn't do it. So, I was 2-2 going into Sunday. And then I lost a lot of early games, including the Rams losing to the Panthers. Now, the Panthers won this game, but they really, it's not like they dominated the Rams. It's not like the Rams have some kind of faulty thing now that teams can look at and exploit. It was just the Panthers, they got a couple of key turnovers, and they took advantage of them. But the Rams offense was, it was prime time. It was doing its job. They just made a few too many mistakes against a team that took care of the mistakes. I'm not going to go over every game. Now, the Colts at home, I had the Colts at home beating the Texans. I probably, in hindsight, shouldn't have said that. The Texans have the number 1 defense in the league. So if their offense can score any kind of points, they're going to win, pretty much. And the Colts have they have a not 100% Daniel Jones. I had the Falcons beating the Jets, and, pretty much I think I said last week maybe that I would take any team against the Jets. Well, probably shouldn't have taken the Falcons, because the Falcons, they're as much of a mess maybe as the Jets are. Let's see, what other notable games stand out? I took the Titans at home over the Jaguars. Again, an ill-advised pick. I probably shouldn't have done that. But I swept the late afternoon game. Once the late afternoon games and on hit, I was 100%. I got the Seahawks beating the Vikings. I got the Bills beating the Steelers. I got the Chargers beating the Raiders. I got the Broncos over the Commanders, although that game did go into overtime. And Denver needs to be concerned. Denver fans need to be concerned. Denver is, they're a lot like the Eagles, except they have a slightly better record. But they have a great defense, and their offense just, it either doesn't show up or it just barely gets, like at the last possible second it scores and wins the game. But they're offensively, they're not that great. But defensively, yes. Stellar defensively. And then I, of course, had the Patriots beating the Giants, and they really did. So with all of that having been said, we're going to get into this week's games. The Thursday night game is going to be the Lions against the Texas Two-Steps, the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to take the Lions. Now, the Lions, they've been stumbling lately, but really, I still think they're a better team than Dallas. I got to believe they're a better team than Dallas. So I'm going to go with the Lions in that one. Now, I hope they lose. I certainly hope they lose because the Bears are currently the number one seed in the NFC North. Or really, they're the number one seed in the NFC. And definitely the NFC North. But anyway, so yeah, teams losing in the NFC North except for the Bears is good for me. The next one we've got is the Titans and the Browns. Both of these teams are stumbling. Both of these teams are directionless. They're both bad, but I'm going to, against my better judgment here, although really, again, both teams stink, I'm going to take the Titans and we're going to chuck the Browns. I'm going to say the Browns lose that game with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. I think he's going to be. We've got the Seahawks and the Falcons. Yeah, the Falcons are gone. We're going to go with the Seahawks there. That's a no-brainer. That is an absolute no-brainer. Next one we got the Washington Commanders, and I don't have a big Commanders helmet, so we're going to go with the Redskins helmet. But anyway, the Redskins over the Vikings. I'm going to go, not the Redskins, really, it's the Commanders. We're going to go Commanders over the Vikings. The Vikings are crap. Yeah, you didn't think you'd hear that. But they've gotten to that point. They're down there with the sediment of the rest of the NFC. And now we've got the Bengals and the Bills. And I'm going to surprise you again. Last week I took the Bengals. They beat the Ravens. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Bills too. They got Burrow back. They seem to be hitting on all cylinders. The Bills really aren't. I mean, they beat Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh put a sorry effort forward in that game. And, that's really the only reason the Bills won last week. Now we've got the Buccaneers and the Saints, and I'm going to go with the Buccaneers here. I know that they're battling injuries. They've got their issues going on right now. But the Saints at 100% can't beat the Buccaneers with injuries. Next, we have the Ravens and the Steelers. Again, this game is so hard to pick because both teams are crap. Both teams are sediment. But I am going to go with the Ravens in that one. I just have a feeling the Ravens... Aaron Rodgers, who knows if he'll play? If he does play, is that hand or shoulder or whatever his problem is going to affect it? And then do they have to go to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as their quarterback? I don't know. So, but we know that the Ravens are starting to get healthy, or are healthy, and should win. Next, we have the Jags and the Colts. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Daniel Jones is battling some kind of injury in his calf, something like that. But also, it's a little-known fact, unless maybe you're a Jaguars fan, that the Colts don't historically do very well in Jacksonville, and this game is in Jacksonville. So we're going to go with the Jags over the Colts. The game is in Jacksonville. Daniel Jones, maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't, but even if he plays, he's playing on a broken calf, whatever. I think it is broke. I think there's like a hairline fracture of his calf, which is crazy that he's playing with that. Now we've got an AFC East matchup of the Dolphins and the Jets. And I said last week, I'll take any team that plays the Jets. And I'm going to stick with that. We're going to go with the Dolphins. The Jets barely pulled out that game last week. Don't know how they did it, but they did. Next, we have the Broncos and the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are hot garbage. They're out of here, and we're going to go with the Broncos. The Broncos are like the top team in the AFC right now. They're riding high, and they're going to keep riding high, especially against a Raiders team that can't beat anybody right now. The next one we got is a Rams, the NFC Rams, who are a really good team. They're an elite team, I think. They lost to Carolina last week. That was just a blip on the radar. We're going to take the Rams to finish off the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, they're crap. They're out. I tried to give them a benefit of a doubt last week and pick them, and they let me down, is really what happened. Now we got the game of the week. Yeah. The Bears and the Packers. We're going Bears, baby. I'm riding that wave. I'm going to ride the wave. We are taking the Bears over the Packers, even though this game is in Green Bay. The little Packer man is not going to beat the Bears. I know you're out there, the same people probably going to say, oh, there's no way the Bears are going to beat the Packers. Yeah, well, that's what you thought last week when they played Philadelphia, the defending Super Bowl champions. So don't give me that. And now we've got the Texans against the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm going Texans. I'm going Texans here. They got the number one defense. The Chiefs are 6-6. When is the last time the Chiefs were 6-6 after 12 games of a season? I don't know. I probably wasn't even born yet. But it was a long time ago. And now you've got the Eagles on Monday night. The Monday night game is the Eagles and the Chargers. Again, I don't know who in their right mind put this as the game, the Monday night game, because you've got a bad Eagles team. Yes, bad Eagles team. They got a good record. Somehow they managed to eke out a good record, but they're not that good. But we're still going to pick them to beat the Chargers. Herbert might be injured. And Herbert is really not the guy as advertised. He's just not that great, is he? No, he is not. So, the Chargers have their issues that they're fighting through. So we're going to go with the Eagles in that game. And that, my friends, is my picks for the week 14 in the NFL. And that's going to be it for me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zuhlke, signing off.